name is Virginia, and the main claim that to the argument that I'm refuting is that air conditioning is a necessity and acts in the best interests of the welfare of society. There were 3 secondary claims made. The first was lack of air conditioning endangers our health. The second was lack of air conditioning reduces economic growth. And the third was lack of air conditioning damages our education. My main claim is that air conditioning is a luxury and not a necessity. My first secondary claim to claim 1 on the lack of air conditioning endangers our health is that central air unit, he said that central air units cause My first secondary claim to claim 1 on the lack of air conditioning endangers our health is that central air units cause air pollutants to be 10 to 100 times more concentrated indoors than they are outdoors. The reasoning my advocate used for the claim was that the lack of air conditioning endangers our health and was that AC improves air quality and eliminates pollens and allergens. What I found was that the Environmental Protection Agency said air pollutants are greater than contaminated air outside. A study published in August of 2004 by International Journal of Epidemiology showed people working in office buildings with central air conditioning had more symptoms of illness than those who didn't. The symptoms included headache, fatigue, mucous membrane irritation, breathing difficulties, and skin irritation. This is because air conditioning ventilation spreads contaminants in the air. In an issue of New England Journal of Medicine, air conditioning was linked to the spread of Legionnaire's disease. The cooling tower was found to have L. pneumophilia in the water, and air intakes near the cooling tower was found to spread the disease to 44 people in the building. The United States has been a major area in growth for air conditioning in recent years. Volatile organic compounds, molds, and allergens trapped in the classroom have been related to causing respiratory problems for students. The author of Losing Our Cool states that under natural ventilation, people have found to experience fewer problems with headaches, colds, other respiratory ailments, circulation problems, eye dryness, allergies, and chest tightness. While my opponent said that lack of air conditioning is a danger to our health because air conditioning eliminates pollens and allergens, it is found that air conditioning actually harms our health by intensifying pollutants, spreading diseases, and causing respiratory systems. And now to the second claim, being that lack of air conditioning reduces economic growth. The reason behind this was made that air conditioning increases job performance in the workplace and increases comfort levels. My secondary claim to this is that the standard temperature for indoor offices is too cold and puts a drag on productivity. Stan Cox, who wrote Losing Our Cool, said that scientific literature is brimming with studies showing that increased ventilation with outdoor air, faster air movement, greater control over conditions in employees' personal workspace, and more contact with natural environment all improve productivity at both work and school. He also said that research has shown that people work more productively when they're not feeling excessively hot, but it also shows that the typical office is too cold and puts a drag on productivity. Research in Brazil, United States, and Europe found that people who are employed in air-conditioned workplaces visit doctors and hospitals more frequently and have higher risks of poor health than those who work without air conditioning. Being too hot may slow you down, but the air temperature in a standard office job is much too cold and slows down productivity. Having to go to the doctors more frequently also slows down productivity in the workplace when you're sick more often than you should be. And secondary claim 3 was that lack of air conditioning damages our education. The supporting reason behind this was that air conditioning increases student performance. My secondary claim to this is that air conditioning does not have a great effect on students in school. While looking into this, I found that air conditioning does not have a great effect on students in school, and my opponent used a case study done by UCLA on students and their performance in school under different temperatures set on the air conditioning. While they did find that students did work better under certain temperatures, there were no statistics found on how much better they worked or if their academics actually improved. As well as my opponent did not state any statistics on academic improvement either. In my personal experience with working in classrooms most of my life, I've always found that temperatures in the classroom are always much too cold, and you start concentrating on keeping yourself warm and paying attention to the fact that you're freezing, which distracts you from learning and performing at your fullest. And with other statements made before, it was shown that respiratory problems and colds are spread through air-conditioned buildings, along with buildings being too cold and slowing down productivity. It does not exactly increase student performance. With this being said, it is found that air conditioning is not a necessity acting in our best interest of the welfare of society, but more as a luxury we have to stay cool when it is hot outside.
All right, structurally everything is pretty effective. I do think that you've got a nice counterclaim about it being a luxury, although you never talk about the luxury issue after that. It's mostly denial of the advocate's claims on those particular points. I think you do a very good job denying those arguments. We've got very good counter evidence to provide a rebuttal argument on most of those things. I think on the first point you could do a little bit more contrasting with the advocate's evidence on the health issue, but you had excellent information about indoor pollutants, about the spread of Legionnaire's disease, and about potential problems in the classroom, which were all issues that kind of fit into that category, and I thought you were pretty effective about that. On the economic issue, you've got some information here that talks about potential problems in the workplace. I don't remember what information the advocate provided that suggested there would be growth. I think he just provides a premise that says, look, if people are happier, if they're more comfortable, they do better, and as a consequence there would be growth. There's no measurement of this. We don't have any statistical way of making these comparisons, and I don't remember that there was any other evidence that suggested that. Your response is a slight difference from the first point, but it still comes back to the notion that people are likely to get more sick when they're exposed to the colder indoor temperatures, and you kind of have a generic reference to studies done in a variety of places, never quoting any of those particular studies, but just kind of like the summary statement that's in a more generic piece of information. But contrasting that to the advocate's position, I think, would be one of those things that you could do at this point and suggest that your position is valid. The education issue, I thought that you had a good criticism of the advocate's evidence on this particular point. You have a nice personal story that goes along with it. There's no counter evidence on the point, but you explain your position pretty well. A lot of reading, though. I mean, this would be one of those things where I think you can talk to us a little bit more and just explain ideas and concepts. I know that everybody wants to get everything right because you think of it as, well, I've got to counter everything. When you're doing the debates, you're not going to have 2 weeks worth of preparation. You're not going to be able to write everything out. So you have to be able to explain the argument a little bit more. I thought you had good evidence, and you could probably explain it more effectively when you're talking to the audience and build your credibility that way. As it was, it sounds a little mechanical. It's like reading a paper, and if we were just writing papers, this would be really good. A presentation, not as strong as it could be. But the evidence and the arguments that you made were solid. All right, thank you.